Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. Danny Kanell is going to join us today. Danny Kanell will be here shortly, and so will Paul Burkhardt. You guys know from PB Sports. He's got an interesting take on Shedeur Sanders that we'll get into. Danny and I will talk some NFL and college football. We will start today's show, though, talking about the Monday Night Football games from last night, and there were two of them. So stay tuned, buckle up for all of that. If you're listening over Apple, right now I need you to hit that 5-star rating. We deserve that 5-star rating. If you're listening over Apple, do that right now. If you're listening to the show right now or watching it on YouTube, you guys, if you're like me, I was up late last night, had a bunch of folks over to my house, tried to sneak in a little workout. Didn't go the best, but I'm here and feeling great because of Relief Factor. And that's why we're here on this show today, and we want to thank our friends at Relief Factor. I'm going to share a story, not my own. You guys have heard me on and on about what Relief Factor is doing for you, but I want to tell you about Bob. He's 63 years old and has spent 40 years as a body man and car painter. Bob says, I could barely walk, couldn't make it up the stairs. By day 4 or 5 of taking Relief Factor, he says he felt the change. But after just 8 days on Relief Factor, I was 75% better. I'm comfortable now, and I'm thoroughly impressed. These kinds of transformations just can't be ignored. If you're living with daily aches and pains, Relief Factor might be the real deal for you, too. Try the 3-week quick start today. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Thank you, Relief Factor. And now let's get to today's show.
As the NFL turns, starring quarterbacks Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, with special appearances from Commissioner Roger Goodell and coaches Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin, and the Harbaughs. Brought to you by the global elites.
All right, last night, 2 Monday Night Football games, one of them featuring the Buffalo Bills and my former leading candidate for MVP, Josh Allen. And I wake up this morning after watching last night's game, and I go, oh, man, did I have the Bills read wrong? Did I have the Bills read wrong? I was completely wrong about the Buffalo Bills. I'm not wrong about Josh Allen, but I am wrong about the Buffalo Bills. They're very mid. They fell to 4-2 last night, knocked off by the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons controlled the game from start to finish. And now looking at that game in the rearview mirror, here's the facts and here's the number that we all must come to grips with. The Buffalo Bills, the 4 games they've won. Guess, Luke, shout out your guess here. Guess how many games those 4 teams that the Buffalo Bills beat when they started out 4-0, guess the number of games those teams have beaten.
7.
3. Luke guessed 7. The Bills' 4 victories over Baltimore, over the New York Jets, over the Miami Dolphins, over the New Orleans Saints. 3-21 combined. And look, when they beat Baltimore, it was legitimate. Lamar Jackson was playing. It's legitimate. But 3-21. And I want to thank Raymond Benedict for sending that in to me. Raymond sometimes comes up with some good notes. Keep sending me your thoughts on the National Football League. But holy cow, when I saw that, and it was like 3-21, and no, it makes sense. They've lost now to the New England Patriots, who look pretty good, and the Atlanta Falcons last night, a team that I'm not very impressed with, but they made Michael Penix look like a real player. The Buffalo Bills defense is mediocre at best, and the Buffalo Bills offense is so reliant and so dependent on Josh Allen. There's just not enough there. I thought, they're playing on a Monday night. This isn't a short week. They actually had time to prepare for this. And Buffalo's offensive line, to me, particularly in spots, it was just way too inconsistent. I don't think of Atlanta as some great pass rush team. Maybe I've got the wrong narrative on the Atlanta Falcons, but to see Buffalo's offensive line struggle with the Atlanta defensive front so often, I'm like, oh boy, the Bills are in trouble. They're not a leading Super Bowl contender. After last night, I think that's true. And it looks like at some point the Buffalo Bills may have to take a look at Sean McDermott, their head coach, and ask themselves, do we have a James Franklin situation going on here? And I know that Sean McDermott's a better coach than James Franklin. He's beaten some good teams over the course of his tenure in Buffalo. James Franklin struggled against good teams. But when you have a Josh Allen, and you can't make it to the Super Bowl, and I know Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are in the AFC. I get it. But at some point, you got to get over the hump, and it looks to me like the Buffalo Bills are trending the wrong direction. They added Joey Bosa, who's been relatively solid and made some plays last night. I thought this was going to improve their defense. It really hasn't. I think you can run on Buffalo. They're just soft in spots. They're not what I would expect from a Sean McDermott team, what I would expect from a cold weather team, what I would expect from a team led by Josh Allen that doesn't have all the necessary ancillary pieces around Josh Allen. What I would expect is one of the toughest teams in the National Football League. A team that it's a little bit more difficult to run the football on. A team that can get the big stops and create the third and 14 situations and get off the field consistently. It's not what I'm seeing in the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are cooked. They're not a Super Bowl contender. We got to mark that down to see if I'm going to be backtracking on that statement. What is today, October 14th or 15th? Is it the 14th? Whitlock is calling the Bills cooked on October 14th. We got to remember that. Make sure we got a note of that, Hadley. I'm calling the Bills cooked on October 14th. I want to move over to the other game last night. The Chicago Bears knock off the Washington Commanders on a last-second field goal, I believe 25-24. Ben Johnson is now 3-3. Ben Johnson is now 3-3, and Ben Johnson is interesting and relevant to me because not that I think the Chicago Bears are any good, not that I think they're going to make the playoffs, not that I think that, I'm not sold on Caleb Williams, but Ben Johnson and what he's doing in Chicago is interesting because I think it's actually going to be prosecutorial. The prosecutors of Aaron Glenn in New York are going to use Ben Johnson's success against Aaron Glenn. And you could sit there and say, like, oh, well, Chicago, they had the number 1 overall pick. They got Caleb Williams. They have a quarterback. I'm not someone to believe they have a quarterback. Now, he may be better than Justin Fields, but I don't think this is their long-term quarterback. I don't think you're handed anything great when you're handed Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams doesn't have the personality to be an NFL franchise quarterback. I'm not going to go off on. I'm not going to turn this into an attack on Caleb Williams, although I could. No, I'm going to stick to my point about Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is going to win games in Chicago. He's 3-3 right now. The schedule the next 3 or 4 weeks is favorable. Ben Johnson could be 6-3, could be 5-4. And if Aaron Glenn is sitting over there with a bagel, still sitting on his resume, a bagel, if he continues to lose these games, they're going to point to Ben Johnson, say, this is why we got to fire Aaron Glenn. I know he doesn't have a good situation. I know we haven't given him much time. I know he doesn't have a quarterback. But look at the magic Ben Johnson created in Chicago. Because, again, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Both of these guys got a lot of credit for Detroit's success. Both of these guys are first-year head coaches. One of them is off to an 0-6 start, and the other is off to a 3-3 start and trending the right direction. at some point the New York Jets are going to look over and say, man, we got the wrong assistant. Ben Johnson ready immediately to contribute and elevate the Chicago Bears. Not true for Aaron Glenn. And listen, just because I'm saying it doesn't mean I believe in this justification. It doesn't mean that I think Aaron Glenn should be fired. But I know how this league works. You hire two guys off the same staff, one the defensive coordinator, one the offensive coordinator, and one of them's tossing up a bagel. And man, I don't know if you heard. Did we? I hope we did. I asked for the clip. Oh, we got a full screen, but we don't have. There was a clip, and I should have hunted it up myself. But Kurt Warner went after Aaron Glenn, I thought, verbally during the broadcast of that game on Sunday from over in London. And I'm like, oh man, there's already pressure on Aaron Glenn. People, because when the broadcasters, and this was right before halftime, and Kurt Warner and Rich Eisen are putting a spotlight on Aaron Glenn. They're talking about like, and again, they're not calling him by name, they're tiptoeing around, but they're making it very clear like, hey, what's going on here? Are they trying to score points? Are they in the hurry up offense situation or what? Why would you pick up the first down and then instead of dropping back to pass with like 50 seconds left, you're running the football, and Kurt Warner melted down and Rich Eisen helped him melt down. And I'm sitting there going, these broadcasters usually aren't this negative, and particularly Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner is a positive energy guy. And so when I hear them politely pointing out like these guys are screwing up, this guy is screwing up, it means like someone within the organization has said, hey man, there's some questions about Aaron Glenn. Does he really have a full command? There are guys that are great defensive coordinators. There are guys that are great on one side of the football, but can't coach the overall football team. Sometimes either you have it, sometimes you have to have time to grow into it. But Aaron Glenn is, late 40s, early 50s. He's not somebody like, oh man, we hired this guy as the head coach at 35 years old. Let's let him grow into the position. When you get the head coaching job this late in life, they're expecting you, man, this is ready to go. This is a 2-minute situation. We pop this thing into the microwave, and 2 minutes later, we got a head coach. This isn't a slow bake situation. Aaron Glenn could be in a lot of trouble, and Ben Johnson's success could accelerate things very quickly. We just had Bill Callahan, the coach here in Tennessee, get fired. He got 1 year and 5 or 6 games, and they got him. You start out 0-8, 0-9, 0-10, or you go 0-17. Curtains. All right, that's my warm-up for Danny Kanell. Danny Kanell is going to come help me walk through some more NFL and college football truths. Before we get to Danny Kanell, I want to tell you guys about Kindred Harvest Teas. You need to know what's in your tea. The Chinese tea industry has flooded America with products contaminated by microplastics and heavy metals. They don't care about your health. They care about your wallet. Kindred Harvest is the American answer. Third-party lab tested, zero microplastics, zero heavy metals, blended and packed right here in the United States with 100% biodegradable heat-sealed sackets. No glue, no ink, no compromises. Morning energy or evening herbal, it's clean tea for your entire family. Stop trusting China with your family's health. Choose American quality. Choose Kindred Harvest. Cultivating goodness daily. Go to kindredharvest.co. That's kindredharvest.co, and use the promo code FEARLESS for 20% off. That's kindredharvest.co. Use the promo code FEARLESS for 20% off. When we come back, Danny Kanell. Acts.
So I wasn't a Sirianni guy when he first took the podium as the new head coach, but he's told me that he's figured it out. He's one of the most, I think now he's a guy that you have to say is an underrated guy as far as the value he brings to that organization, getting to 2 Super Bowls, winning 1. I think he's figuring it out. I think he will address it. I'll at least going to give him the credit to address it. This is a guy who just won the Super Bowl, and it's a Philly fan base. I get it. They had a tough night last night losing to my Dodgers. The Flyers lost. Jason, the Flyers lost. They're running out of Philly cheesesteak in Philly. I mean, it's a bad situation to be in Philly right now. I don't think anybody wants to live in Philadelphia right now. So you compile all that together, I think he'll address it. I think he'll figure it out. I think he's superseded expectations so far, and I just think we're in Philly and we're so hard on that fan base is so hard on sports teams that I think we're overdoing it. But at the same time, I think they're winning in spite of Jalen Hurts. If you put Jalen Hurts with the Cincinnati Bengals, he'd be in the UFL right now.
These words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. Time for Danny Kanell. Danny, welcome back to the show. We will start with Monday Night Football and the Buffalo Bills. Pretty interesting stat. Their 4 victories come against teams with a combined record of 3-21. When they beat Baltimore, Baltimore had Lamar Jackson. That's a legitimate victory. But their other victories, the Jets, Dolphins, New Orleans, not so good. Should we be hyper concerned about the Buffalo Bills?
Hyper concerned, no, but I do think concerned, yes. Hyper concerned if you picked them to win the Super Bowl before the season, which a lot of people did, then I'd say, all right, there are some significant problems. Concerned if, just do you think they can get there now? Because you have to be a complete team that is out there, and that defense is showing significant issues. And I do think you're starting to see some of the problems with Josh Allen start to creep up that you saw earlier in his career when he's playing from behind, maybe tries to make some throws that are ill-advised because he has this cannon for an arm. He's got superpowers, right? We've heard all the accolades that Josh Allen has, which I agree with. I think he's one of the best in the NFL. But just like a lot of people, if a defense is struggling, he starts to press a little bit too much, and it starts to exacerbate some of those issues. There's also the 4th down conversion throw, like when he does the flip, which I get very trendy, like to do something off the script and just flip it out there underhand. If he just takes one extra step and sidearms it, just throws it normal, I think that's a 1st down. Instead, he tries to flip it like 10 yards, it balloons in the air and falls short. Some quarterbacks, I'm telling you, I think they're in it more for the style points. I love Josh Allen. I don't know if that was one of those circumstances, but whatever it takes to make the play, and I get it, he's made that play before. Maybe he just misjudged where he was in the field, but I do think some of his bad habits are starting to come to the forefront because of the situation that's unfolding around him.
Danny, you put me in a really bad spot here. I'm about to question a quarterback about quarterback play. But I got to do it. I've been doing this since I was a little kid. I grew up with Jeff George. And Jeff George, if he were here to tell you, would tell you that I'm the second best quarterback Jeff George has ever played football with. He would tell you that. I mean, I was a terrific quarterback. So I'm going to second guess you here.
Okay.
What I saw on that play is Josh Allen's feet and body angle and everything. It was just off kilter. And he couldn't do the turn to flip the ball the way you're talking about. The only chance he had with the way he was moving towards the sideline and the pass rush coming with him, I thought that was the only shot he had at getting the ball. I believe it was to a running back, someone doing a wheel route or was forced into a wheel route, and it came up short. I don't think that was Josh trying to be tricky and creative and doing too much. I think physically, the way he was moving, it was the only shot he thought he had to get it off in time without taking an extra beat to turn his body, and then he felt like he was going to get hit.
Which absolutely could be the case, right? I love Josh Allen. I think he's incredible. So and maybe style points was sort of the wrong terminology to use because I don't think he's like hot dogging it out there. And we'll never know because I think if he would have taken another step, I mean, clearly the defender's closing while he's taking those extra steps. But I just feel like if he would have taken 1 or 2 extra steps, he could have really drilled the the running back with the ball as opposed to flipping it out there where you can't get anything on it. It bloops, it falls short. But maybe either way, it doesn't get complete, right? Maybe it was just good defense, and he couldn't get it off.
Well, here's what is potentially different, particularly from your era. Josh Allen in your era, he would have been coached to take that extra step, take that hit, and deliver the football. In this era, they preach it, don't take those hits, don't take those hits. You get hurt, we're cooked, we got nothing else other than you. And he chose safety over what a Phil Simms would have just taken that hit. In that era, every quarterback would have just taken that hit because that's how you win the respect of your teammates. And now you've been coached into safety.
100% agree. You also don't have to worry that much. I mean, he might have been able to set his feet and throw, and the defender's scared to hit him anywhere, so they just come up. I do think it's been think it's easier. It's easier to play quarterback now than it's ever been. It really is. All the rules favor the offensive players. It's easier for receivers to run routes. Quarterbacks do not have to worry about getting hit anywhere. There's like a very small bullseye. They can't get hit after. There was a ridiculous roughing the passer call last night in Monday Night Football when you saw just a very nonchalant glance off the helmet, and the rules are there so that you're supposed to throw that flag no matter what. But it really is easier to play quarterback than it's ever been before. And I do think that's why you're seeing a lot of quarterbacks put up pretty good numbers, so it fools a lot of organizations and thinking that's our franchise guy. I think it's another reason why you're seeing quarterbacks play into their 40s, because if you have the depth of knowledge of seeing 15 or 20 years of football and defenses, and you're not susceptible to the hits, like you can just keep playing forever. I think a lot of it goes into it, but I do think the position itself is easier than it's ever been.
I want to move to Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets because I think Aaron Glenn may be in some trouble, and I think the more success Ben Johnson has with Chicago, 2 first-year coaches, Chicago probably feels like they have their quarterback of the future. I disagree. Obviously, the Jets don't have a quarterback, but I watched that game over in London Sunday morning, and I thought Kurt Warner and Rich Eisen were politely hard on Aaron Glenn right before halftime. And Kurt Warner was questioning, like, hey, do they really know what they're doing? Are they trying to score? What are they doing? Why are they running the ball here? And this was all a subtle shot at Aaron Glenn without using his name. And so I want to read you, this is what Kurt Warner had, I think, put out over Twitter about Justin Fields. Here's my assessment. Overall, there were very few guys open on a majority of plays. A tight throw here or there he could have made for sure. And then I thought worst thing he did was being late on 3 quick out routes that should have been completions. I feel Justin Fields has always held the ball too long and has to speed up his processing. But I think it's also important to break down each play and assess it as opposing to making some generalization because of how it might have looked live. So that's Kurt Warner on Justin Fields and the Jets quarterback situation. I think we're all in agreement now. Justin Fields isn't a starting quarterback. Is that going to save Aaron Glenn from the consequences of what looks like a 2-15 season, maybe an 0-17 season? Does Aaron Glenn belong on the hot seat year one?
Not yet. I think he'll get his quarterback next year. And I do think that's a big difference because I'm torn on Caleb Williams, whether he's a star in this league for a long time, but he was a number 1 overall pick that Ben Johnson's job is to put in a better position. And he's done a pretty good job of that so far. Justin Fields, I thought he was worth the price tag, which at $20 million, it's a lot of money, but it's not much for a starting caliber quarterback. I was kind of curious how it would go, and I think clearly we're already seeing that it's not going to work. So I think they'll probably let Aaron Glenn draft a quarterback, one of these guys in this class, and they'll see if he can build around him and give him another shot. The reason, I think there's a couple reasons why I think Aaron Glenn gets a longer leash than maybe some other coaches. One, he played there. I think that does kind of matter. And the way he's handled himself, I do think he still preaches accountability. Like when I look at Mike McDaniels and I hear him in front of a microphone at Miami, I wonder, how does this guy still have a job? Like, and it feels like it's any moment, but there's never been a moment in front of a microphone where you're just blown away, other than when he was a darling and everybody fell in love with him because it was fun and cute and he gave you great quotes. But Aaron Glenn, I do think as a former player, he's taking ownership of his mistakes, of the players' mistakes, and I think that matters. And I think it's a way to gain the team's trust around you. So I think he still has the locker room, but that was a bad look. I mean, when you go for it on fourth down before the half, and then all of a sudden you're kneeling, you're saying after the game that you didn't want to give the ball back, to Denver. What if you didn't get the fourth down? Like, you're giving the ball in great field position. Like, why? There was not a really good explanation for it. Then today, or I think it was yesterday, he came out and said, well, maybe I should have tried a Hail Mary, and I regret that. Again, it's a bit of ownership that he's taken place, and he's saying, I need to get better, we need to get better. But the one thing you cannot do is look unprepared. I mean, so much of football is about situational game management, and it happens all across the NFL. It's not only Aaron Glenn, but for a rookie coach, you should be able to answer exactly why you are doing what you're doing. And it just didn't feel like he had a great answer for their halftime approach in a game that was very tight and winnable. And if they handle it differently and get some points there, or handle it differently, they could potentially have won that game. So I think he gets another year, but it's New York. It's a hot market. Like, I've played there. They'll come down on him, but I think he does get another year.
Danny, I don't want to put words in Kurt Warner's mouth or Rich Eisen's mouth, but as someone that's watched a lot of football, listened to a lot of broadcasters, when their commentary at the end of the half, and Rich saying like, Kurt's losing it here, and when they ran the ball there, and Kurt was like, okay, you got the first down, now you're going to go for it. It seemed to be drawing attention to Aaron Glenn. And I think a lot of times when you get those network jobs, they're calling it for the NFL network or one of the major networks, you don't take that kind of subtle shot at Aaron Glenn unless there are people in that Jets universe that are questioning, hey, does Aaron Glenn have a full grasp of what he's doing here as a head coach? Am I reading too much into that? Because I've seen broadcasters put the kid gloves on with guys that are in perfect standing, and then they go a little bit more high risk when they know, hey, there's questions about this guy.
Yeah, I think Kurt does a really good job. I think he's just honest when he's out there, but I think he also comes from a mindset as a former player himself, what would I have been thinking in that situation? And I think that's where it can get a little bit convoluted, because as a former MVP and a Super Bowl champion, every time he got the ball, he didn't care what was on the clock. He was thinking, how am I going to score points? And I think that does have to come into consideration when you do have more of a liability at quarterback. You do handle those situations differently at the end of half. But again, it still didn't make a lot of sense, the plays that they were calling at the end of the half, no matter who the quarterback was. So I do. And I thought Kurt, he actually came out, I think it was today, that he was a little bit more defending Aaron Glenn and taking more of a positive approach with him. And maybe it's sort of, he's gotten a lot of, conversation, and he's seen people, oh, you were really hard on Aaron Glenn, like he's a first-year coach. Maybe that's why. But I think that's what makes him a good broadcaster, is that he kind of thinks out loud. And when there's a situation that's unfolding, he's thinking, what would I have thought in this one? And it might be completely different than what the coach is, thinking with a different quarterback. And it's interesting because that Justin Fields evaluation was exactly what I think most people thought of him when he was coming out of college, was the processing just took a little bit too long, and you're slow to process, and you cannot be late with throws in the NFL. You have to be a fast processor of the information and then execute it, or else you'll get exposed all day long.
Man, I'm about to waste 90 seconds here, but I got it. And this isn't a waste, but it's something I'm interested in. Did you see the video Chase Daniel put out with what goes on in a headset? Oh, you didn't like? I loved it. You didn't like it?
So the only thing I would say about this, and I did see Ben Kirk, who was a former quarterback himself, called him out a little bit. So to me, it felt a little bit of Hollywood, right? Like when there's a movie made and you exaggerate a couple of the details, There was a lot of conversation that went on in that because I saw it and I loved it. I thought it was really entertaining. And there might be one or two situations a game where a coach would be that wordy because, and for anybody that missed it, he had the walkie-talkie and he said, this is what it sounds like for a quarterback. And he gave the play call, which was very wordy, which that is normal. It takes a long time. And then he gave a lot of added information that I didn't really get. And maybe it was because I was a veteran and didn't need it. But there was like Gary Kubiak or Mike Shanahan were my play callers when we had them. Dan Reeves was calling them. It was pretty straightforward of, here's our play, let's run it. Like king right trip, flip it, wing opposite, B234 quarterback pass, wing 8Y7. And that would be the call. And that was it. And the way he made it out, he kept saying, all right, don't forget, if it's cover 2, you're going to hit the weak side, slant route. If it's cover 1, like he basically gave a lot of coaching that I don't think is there. And then he was like, he added a couple more things in there, like, hey, so-and-so has been working over this defensive back. Keep an eye on him. And there was just a little bit of added information that I thought was made for Hollywood a little bit. And I love Chase. I think he does a great job. And I thought it was a glimpse of what some quarterbacks hear. I just thought it was a little bit inflated of what you hear every down.
You need to cover this on your own podcast or somewhere, put out your own video, because someone that, played college football, obviously not a quarterback, but has watched a lot. I've always wondered, like, how much conversation does go on? And I was like, why is Chase Daniel the first guy to give me the details? This should be commonplace, this kind of conversation. It's an inside look. It's the ultimate inside look. And so I would love for you to put out maybe a more realistic deal because I did think like, man, that's a lot of information. Right. And I'm wondering though, Danny, has it changed so much from when you played? Because I'm just telling you, the guys now, you didn't play in the college football era where everybody looked over at the sidelines after every play. I don't think you were in that era. And so these guys aren't trained up in college the way you guys were. And then they're it felt like, man, they got to spoon feed these quarterbacks everywhere. Don't forget to tie your shoes. Right. Hey, put your chin strap on, blah, blah, blah. It's like, and so maybe it's just a difference in era. And he just came out of the NFL, and maybe they got to spoon feed these guys.
They might be getting that much information now. I do think there's a lot of quarterbacks, especially younger ones, who have their hands held. My experience, and this was actually a problem in Denver with Shanahan, so he actually had us memorize the entire game plans, was it was getting in so late that you would only get king right trip, flip it, wing opposite, B234, and it would cut out. And you've only got 15 seconds, and you had to know, based on the formation and a little bit of it, how to finish the call so you didn't have to waste a timeout. And so that was like Jake Plummer's job. So it was pretty funny because at the time, we were all kind of complaining about it. Like, we got to memorize the whole game. And those whole cards that they hold in front of their heads that they're going to read, they flip them around. And so they would give us a blank sheet of paper, and we would have to write out the whole card, the whole thing. And it took us like 20 minutes probably to do it. And Shanahan offered us, he said, if you guys can do it, I'll give you $500. At the time, $500 felt like a lot of money to me. So I was making sure I aced that bad boy every single time. And it was just straight memorization. So you could come across with those plays. I doubt they're having those players memorize the entire play today. The entire play sheet, the whole playbook, memorizing every formation. But that was sort of the attention to detail that we had back in the day. Plummer was probably, the $500 didn't mean as much to him. I think he was probably making $7 million at the time. But as somebody who was making rookie, or not rookie minimum, but league minimum, that $500 cash, that could go a long way. I love getting that extra money to get to play for it. But he usually had about 97% of them right, so it was good.
Wow. This whole thing, it's fascinating because I'm someone that believes, like, hey, man, they really dumbed down the game. And yeah. We keep pretending like these quarterbacks are doing the same thing that Dan Marino was doing, and they're not, or what Joe Montana was doing, or what Warren Moon. They're just not. But you're not allowed to talk about it because these new guys are the greatest thing ever. They're better than anything we've ever seen before. That's the game we all have to play. I need to move on because I haven't even gotten to the real reason we got you on today. James Franklin has been fired, and we happen to identify the one former college football star who thinks it's unjustified. And his name is Danny Kanell. Danny, the floor is yours. Why are you out here caping for James Franklin?
So I wouldn't say I'm caping for James Franklin. I am just a big advocate of be careful what you wish for, because everybody thinks that the next head coach at Penn State is just going to automatically take them to the promised land, right? They're tired of going 10-2 every year. They're tired of losing to Ohio State and Michigan. But you know what's a lot worse than that? What they're experiencing this year, losing to UCLA, losing to Northwestern, losing to other Big Ten teams. And it could go one of two ways, because the perfect example, if you're a Penn State fan, and I've heard this from them, is and I fought for Mark Richt when he was at Georgia, because he was very similar. He had them knocking on the door, and they just kept coming up short against the better teams. And they bring in Kirby Smart, and Kirby Smart takes them home, and they are one of the powerhouses of college football. So that is your perfect example. But I also vividly remember being on a SportsCenter set when the Bo Pelini news broke at Nebraska, and they just fired him. And it was pretty shocking because he was around 9 wins every year, 9 or 10 wins, and they had enough. They're like, we're tired of not getting it done. And they have been searching for the next big head coach for close to 20 years at Nebraska to try to recapture what Bo Pelini gave them. And ultimately, when they were running, the table and had national championships in the 90s with Tom Osborne, that's what they're chasing. Florida is another example. Florida has been chasing success. They ran off Dan Mullen. They were tired of getting 9, 10 wins and playing in BCS bowls. They said, we can do better than this. They bring in Billy Napier. They're on the cusp of paying him a massive buyout. It's just not as simple as people think. And I get, if you said, how do you defend this? I don't. It is inexcusable. Back-to-back games as a 21-point favorite. How do you lose those games? It's inexplicable, but I do think there is something about today's player. When you fall short of your goals, and when you fall short of that game against Oregon, which was only 16 days ago, and you were in overtime of potentially beating one of those top 5 opponents, and you lose that game, it's just so devastating, and you feel like a failure, and it's just this hangover that comes. And I don't know if it's because our athletes are mentally weaker, if it's just too much to overcome. They're not used to facing adversity, because a lot of these players that play at Penn State or Florida State or a lot of elite programs, they went to the best high schools where you won almost every single game. And the minute you go through some adversity, they don't know how to respond. A lot of them play video games, and they're gamers. And when you start to lose, what do? You just hit reset. You never fight your way out of it. There's just a lot of that goes into it. So if the next head coach comes in and he has a great team and they make a run, I'll say congratulations. I was wrong. But I'll be surprised if the next head coach has the amount of consistent success that James Franklin's had over his entire career there.
Danny, I'm older than you, I think by 10 years or so. There's a thing we used to call, you can get beat twice by the same team. You lose to Oregon, and then you got a hangover and you get beat the next week. Happened to us. We played for the MAC championship against Western Michigan and lost in a heartbreaker. And then we went to Ohio U, bad team, and got beat on the road because we were hungover. The coaches were hungover. We were hungover. It happened. They've gotten beat twice, and it makes it worse. The other thing that kind of where I'm a little bit on your side is the athletic director came out and said, hey, I'm here to win national championships. And the old school guy in me is like, man, I used to love it, man. Everybody was about winning their conference championship. You win your conference championship, you've had a successful season. Now it's Super Bowl or bust, and it's college football playoff or win the national, because they made the playoffs and he won 2 games last year. I just think it's a difficult standard, but the reason why I don't think the AD would be talking this salty unless he had Matt Rule already lined up, or Kirk Cignetti already lined up. And I probably think it's Matt Rule, but I think he has his next coach lined up, and that's why they're holding to this standard. This ain't good enough.
Which, if that's it, then I kind of sign off because I like Matt Rule a lot. I like it a lot better if he brings his QB with him, Dylan Raiola, who's pretty talented. We saw Lincoln Riley when he went to USC, brought Caleb Williams with him. It wouldn't be that uncommon. But, like, if I look at Matt Rule, and he's got the most leverage of maybe any coach that we've seen in recent memory. And these coaches and their agents more specifically absolutely skewer these school administrators who are negotiating every single time. That's why we're in this position. It's laughable how many of these schools can get into these situations when they hand out these contract extensions and you have these buyouts that are absolutely insane. Like, at some point, isn't some athletic director going to have the stones to stand up to a coach who's threatening to leave and say, go ahead, walk. We'll find somebody else and we'll pay them a decent amount. But if you want to go get that raise, go somewhere else, because you're going to see that happen a lot this cycle. But to your point, if it's not Matt Rule or it's not Kirk Cignetti, then all of a sudden you're going to see the fire alarms and the smoke starting to swirl around Penn State, because that's when you start getting a little more desperate. I'm with you. I think it has to be Matt Rule. He played there. He's coached there. It feels like the perfect fit. It feels like the perfect timing because he's elevated Nebraska to a place. They have a couple more winnable games, but they're going to be around 7 or 8 wins on the conservative side. They might go above that. And it just feels like you might have tapped out. Like, you've left them in a good spot where your stock is at a high where you can kind of leave. Nebraska fans, I don't think they'd even be upset at him because of his ties to Penn State. So it feels like Matt Rule is the perfect hire. But, oh, boy, if they don't get him or Cignetti, I wonder which direction they go, because there doesn't really exist a surefire hire. Like, I thought Luke Fickell was a sure thing at Wisconsin. It's been a disaster. You know, I've seen other coaches that you think are going to work. It just very rarely works out that way.
I don't think they would have done this, and maybe I'm being too cynical. I don't think they would have done this if they didn't already have Matt Rule lined up. And you know, maybe that's illegal. I don't know, but I surely think that's what's happening here. And particularly Matt Rule's comments kind of left the door open. Right. He didn't. No, I'm not. Blah blah blah. This sounds like a done deal to me.
I would tend to guess. I would agree with you. And even if it's a Matt Rule's agent, yeah, we'll get it done. Like, yeah, he wants the job. We'll figure out the details later. Penn State had to come up with their $50 million buyout for Franklin. And then once that was all kind of assured from the parties, but we've seen those verbal agreements sometimes, you know, not come to fruition, or you get a little more leverage over them. But I do I think it'll be Matt Rule. That's my best guess as well.
All right, I want to play you a clip of the game day crew seeming to defend Bill Belichick. I think there's a lot of us that think this Bill Belichick thing is over and that they're just waiting, maybe perhaps to the end of the season or a few more losses. But these guys on game day seem to be arguing that Bill's all in and that Bill and you know, they're going to roll through these punches. He and why am I forgetting Mike's last name? Mike Lombardi. Mike Lombardi are going to roll through this and continue to work. Let's play SOT number 1.
What's happening with this team and with this program, and him leaving, or the idea of him leaving?
Answer that.
I can't answer.
But answer that. He has to be watching right now. That's literally Bill Belichick calling Kirk Herbstreit. He probably has something to say.
Yeah. He probably does.
But you know, every coach needs to have the opportunity to establish his culture and also to recruit his kind of players. First year at Alabama, we lost to ULM.
Remember that?
Yeah. Remember that?
That was a Thursday.
Alabama beat them 73-0 this year. We lost to them.
On a Thursday.
Most humiliating game loss of my whole career.
I don't blame
you. know, I get in my car to go home, and I got to stop and get gas. I got no gas. I used to wear my LSU national championship ring. I paid for the gas.
Yeah.
The guy says, hey, what is that? I said, it's a national championship ring. We're going to do the same thing here. He said, we'll never do it as long as Nick Saban's a coach. So did you give the guy a chance?
Wait. Did you go visit him after your 6th or 7th title? Did you go back and say hello after 5, 6, 7 rings? I hope you did.
Look, there was an acclamation for Bill.
Yeah.
You know, I know how organized he is. Probably misjudged a little bit the timing of the first portal window, so they probably didn't get an opportunity. You know, when you change coaches, you're going to lose players. So you got to replace those players, and I think they missed the window, which is probably affecting this year, but they won't miss it next year, and they're doing a great job of recruiting.
That's my question as we sit here on October 11th of 2025. Knowing the full buy-in of Bill Belichick and Lombardi, will this work? If we thought in August it's definitely going to work. I'm asking you guys, do we have confidence it's going to work? The fact that he's all in, to me, tells me it's going to work.
I think his track record suggests that it will.
Right.
Sure. I mean,
Look, obviously, these guys aren't on YouTube. They're on ESPN, and they know that Bill Belichick's watching. But can a 73-year-old with a 24, 25-year-old girlfriend be all in? Because and I love Kirk Herbstreit, like Reese Davis, love all those guys, Desmond, but all in? Can you 73 and a 20? He's all in on the 24-year-old. We know that. On UNC football, I just don't see it.
I'm with you. I think you have to consider, too. I mean, I don't know how many friends Bill Belichick has that are really close to his inner circle. I would consider Nick Saban one of them, though. Like, they're not going to blast Bill Belichick with Nick Saban sitting right there. And I'm sure Nick Saban has been one of Bill Belichick's biggest defenders in all of this. So that's who they're talking to. So I think you have to consider that. The one thing I would push back is the track record. All we have to go by is what we've seen in Chapel Hill, because he hasn't been in college for 40 years. So we have an NFL track record, but it is a completely different animal coaching college players. And I think he's really struggling with that, with coaching college players who need more than just X's and O's, technique, show me what to do. Some of them need a father figure, some of them need a mentor, but most of them need a motivator and somebody who's going to encourage them to maximize what they're there for. And that's not Bill Belichick's personality. I don't think he's one of those guys who really builds you up. Let's build up your confidence. No, he tells you what to do and expects you to go do it. And I think this gets worse if it gets better. And my most likely scenario is that Belichick and the executives, the board of trustees, the athletic director, the decision makers in Chapel Hill all get together and say, you know what, let's just admit and call this what it was. It was a mistake, and let us all move on and try to keep intact whatever legacy remains for both of them. Because they talk about recruiting, let him get a recruiting class. If this season continues this downward spiral and you finish with 3 wins, let's say, you know how much harder that's going to be to recruit when you have these parents telling, it's just already out. Like the Bill Belichick experience has already been exposed, and it's not helping his ability to bring other players in there. It's only going to make it harder. So I'll be shocked if he is there next season. I'll be shocked if he's there at the end of November. I just think it's going to get a lot worse.
Danny, on that note, we'll let you go. Thank you so much. Great job as always. That's Danny Kanell, and that's about the best 30 minutes of football talk that you can get anywhere. Thank you, Danny. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be back with Paul Burkhardt, our man from PB Sports Broadcast. We got some Shedeur stuff we'll get into. We got some Mike Tomlin ripping the front office of the Cleveland Browns for trading Joe Flacco within the division. We'll do all that next. Steve, I think you're 1,000% right. He's just killing time when he's talking football. His main job is to be a big symbol to other black journalists that, hey, man, if you're willing to be racist on air. We have a prominent spot for you here at ESPN. And it's like, find clever ways to be racist. You don't need to be as bad at it as Ryan, but we keep him around as a big symbol that all are welcome. If you're willing to be a bigot against white people, if you're willing to promote all of our woke ideology and be that symbol, we will back you come hell or high water. It's amazing to me, Steve, that you could do your third apology on Thursday and show up on Friday like nothing happened. That's amazing to me.
That's not really amazing. I think it's par for the course. The standards you set for somebody is what you really think of them. And again, what do coaches stress in football or any other sport? Execution. Well, Ryan Clark is just executing his job.
All right, welcome back. Paul, I hope you're prepared. I got a couple of topics that I didn't tip you off that I wanted to ask you, but I think you'll be ready for them because, Paul, aren't you one of the big Jaden Daniels supporters? Aren't you a big believer in Jaden Daniels? So I'm going to start you there. And we'll get to Shedeur and Mike Tomlin and the Cleveland Browns here in a second, but I want to start with something Devin McCourty said. I thought it was Jason McCourty. It was Devin. Anyway, Devin McCourty said on Drake Maye being the best quarterback in the class of 2024, which isn't that the class that your boy Jaden Daniels was in? Anyway, let's play the clip.
There's an excitement. Drake Maye, the best quarterback from the 2024 class, Matthew Berry.
Stop that. Stop that.
Jaden Daniels.
Stop that. Yeah. Let me know when Drake Maye gets to an NFC championship game or even an AFC championship game.
He plays in New England. They only count Super Bowls.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough.
I like that, JC.
They don't hang banners for
playoff appearances, right?
We like Drake Maye. He's not Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels and the Commanders lost last night. He's like a lot of these sophomore quarterbacks. You know, we get high on them as rookies and they take a little step back. Drake Maye seems to be trending the other direction. I think Devin McCourty might be on solid ground here. Paul, what say you?
I'll challenge that now and in the future. And 2 days before the 24 draft, I was on a video that has actually helped our brand quite a bit by saying Jaden Daniels should have been the #1 pick over Caleb Williams. I had said at the time that Drake Maye was a development that needed to go in progress and that J.J. McCarthy would be the 1A. Drake is performing well. You have to give him his due. I would not write off in any way, shape, or form Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to be absolutely fine and terrific. There's been a lot of commotion in the offseason over there in Washington, and I think some of that's playing out. You might be right on some of the sophomore slump, so to say. You know, he's just coming off an injury, but he's all world, and I think he'll be absolutely fine. I wouldn't read much into it last night. When he's got McLaurin on the field and Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz, and, you know, look what's happened to the running backs. I think he's going to be fine, but props to Drake. With not a lot of wholesale talent at the wide receiver position over there, he is developing nicely, and don't underestimate the Josh McDaniels factor to that. That's a nice match.
So couldn't Drake Maye be the better quarterback without it meaning that Jaden Daniels stinks? It's just like, hey, Drake Maye is trending the right direction, and he's perhaps in a better situation with Josh McDaniels and the and Mike Vrabel. Couldn't that, you know, it doesn't have to be a slight of Jaden McDaniels to say Drake Maye may be the best quarterback in that class.
I agree with you. I mean, you got to give him his due. He's right there. I think we got to let it play out a little bit to get a final verdict on that. But yeah, he's trending upward, and it's looking good.
So I want to get to the real reason why I brought you on, and we'll start with Mike Tomlin ripping the Cleveland Browns organization for trading Joe Flacco within the division. I think Mike Tomlin's here on solid ground. I like that he's basically calling out Andrew Berry. Let's play the clip.
You know, to be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
And so everybody is in this feud, Kevin Stefanski versus Andrew Berry, and it looks like Mike Tomlin's picked a side. He's the guy that's like, man, this is crazy what the Cleveland Browns are doing. And it is crazy what the Cleveland Browns did. They thought enough of Joe Flacco to make him their starter. And then, we're going to trade our day one starter to a team within our division, the Cincinnati Bengals, who are hurt. This is insanity. And Mike Tomlin isn't blaming Jimmy Haslam, and maybe he's not because, like, hey, that's an NFL owner. Maybe I'll need a job one day. I don't know. He pointed a finger directly at Andrew Berry. Paul, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, not pointing the finger at Haslam and not the coach's fraternity at Stefanski, so Berry became his target. We've never seen, I shouldn't say we, I've never seen anything like this. It is a comedy of errors. It is daily. It is not only daily, it is multiple times a day. It is counterintuitive at the highest level. You can't even make this stuff up. If you were to draw up a Hollywood script, this is better than that. He's right. I like Mike I've always liked Mike in that way, that he is a tell it like it is guy and no nonsense, no BS. And it doesn't make any sense. You don't name your starter and then trade him to an in-division rival. And it's their arch rival, Pittsburgh in Cincy. Now, is that going to affect the Steelers season? Is Joe Flacco some world beater that's going to make a difference? No. Is he probably better for the system than Jake Browning at this point? Yes. But it's just the standard of the operating procedure of the Browns is so off the wall that it's literally shocking everybody. The YouTubers, the football people, fellow coaches that would even comment on something like this. You don't normally see this type of thing happen, particularly in season. And so I agree with him. It doesn't make sense. And when we get to the next topics, I have a little bit more to share that I think will shine or shed a little bit more light on this, but it's nonsense. Jimmy Haslam would never run the Pilot Corporation like this. And he's allowing this to take place for the Cleveland Browns, and it's just shocking. It's literally shocking. It's a turnstile of money. It's almost as if he doesn't care. If you were to hire people around you in a standard business that didn't make money by accident, regardless of what you did, in a standard business, you don't allow this nonsense to go on because you would be called out for it. It would affect your business. But he is letting Berry do what he's doing and Stefanski doing what he's doing. And we're watching a tryout during the year. We've never seen this. Rookie mini camp, training camp, off season. That's what this is for.
Well, hold for one. Look, this is a feud between a general manager and a head coach, particularly if the head coach didn't hire the general manager. Take Kyle Shanahan. He gets the job first in San Francisco, brings in John Lynch. The Kyle Shanahan initially going in, and I think still to this day, has more leverage over John Lynch. But these type of feuds are commonplace. You can go all the way back, my days in Kansas City when Marty Schottenheimer and Carl Peterson used to feud. And eventually Schottenheimer wrestled control of the franchise away from Carl Peterson, blew up in Marty's face once he did it to create the 1998 Kansas City Chiefs team that blew up in everyone's face. But it's commonplace. And ownership does struggle a lot of times to navigate the natural tension between a head coach and a general manager. And so you can blame Jimmy Haslam for maybe not managing this relationship well between Berry and Kevin Stefanski, but I don't think you can blame Jimmy Haslam for the actual trade of Joe Flacco within the division. that's on the GM. And yes, Haslam could have overruled it, but now he get in that mess. Well, I can't do my job. You're not allowing me to do what I want to do. To me, this is clearly about Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski having two different visions, and I'll bring in the elephant in the room, Shedeur Sanders. This is why I believe Andrew Berry is the guy. He is the Shedeur Sanders guy, and he and Kevin Stefanski have a feud going on about the Shedeur Sanders, and I think Stefanski knows, like, hey man, this little midget I got here at quarterback isn't that great. He's not going to be our solution. But he's saying, but he's better than that guy. That guy is toxic and a cancer. Go ahead, Paul. I've rambled on enough.
I don't know. I don't know how any quarterback could be successful with what's going on there. I mean, you've seen it with so many guys, whether that was Baker Mayfield, whether it was Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel. You're going to put Shedeur Sanders in a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm not sure it would work with anybody. I mean, how are you supposed to succeed in a culture like that? There is division. People are going to have different opinions, but I don't think there's a clear plan, Jason. I don't think that anyone in that building knows what the hell is going on. So we can argue or debate, or anybody can, until the cows come home about, is it Dylan, is it Shedeur, or who should it be? If anybody thinks that Shedeur Sanders is going to step on this field and everything's going to magically change, the system is the system. Now, you can put some plays and a package in or a certain way of doing things with Shedeur versus Dylan versus Joe, but it's not suddenly going to make guys catch the ball, drop the ball. There's guys running routes with their hands down. It's hitting them in the helmet. It's like no one even cares. Myles Garrett doesn't want to be there. He's starting to spout off and say a bunch of stuff. And maybe that's a Shedeur thing because he's disappointed that he's not in there. I don't know. But I'm not sure that that's going to make a difference. But I agree. They're going to give him a look. This is like a open tryout. This is a casting call during the season. Like at the beginning of the year, they said, we're going to give them both a look. Who does that? How are you going to blow a season by giving your guys a look? That's off season.
Well, look, you got the original sin
when it's over.
Well, you got the original sin, which is signing Deshaun Watson, acquiring Deshaun Watson, and getting out from underneath the original sin is going to be an ugly process. I'm giving everybody in the organization some grace. Blame Jimmy Haslam for Deshaun Watson. I'm good. Or blame Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry, because I think that's who controls the roster. I think they got a traditional deal. Kevin Stefanski coaches it up. Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam acquire the talent. They're trying to get out from underneath the Deshaun Watson deal. And I would imagine Stefanski sitting there saying, part of the reason he doesn't want any parts of Shedeur is like, hey, man, you guys just brought in for $260 million or $240 million a guy that clearly had character flaws. We all knew it when you brought him in. And Shedeur has character flaws. I know you're not supposed to say that because he's black and he's Deion's son, but it's a fact. And so most of my sympathy falls on Kevin Stefanski, but I also have some sympathy for Andrew Berry because the owner seems to have brought in Deshaun Watson, and it's going to be an ugly process cleaning up that toxic oil spill, which is a massage oil spill. That massage oil spill that overran the lakes of Cleveland. It's going to be ugly cleaning that up, Paul. I don't know if you've ever had those issues where massage oil spills everywhere. No. It's a process cleaning it up.
So I don't know how you clean that process up without putting him on the field. So this whole talk about Shedeur Sanders, I mean, so what are you going to, I mean, the guy just cut an ESPN commercial the other day that shows his progress. Who allowed that to get out? I mean, if you have that much money invested and you're going to take a $37 million dead cap hit, I think it is, how are you going to do that? No one's going to take on that money. You have them. You have him for another year after this year. How do you allow that to go on without putting him on the field? So I think that's the elephant in the room, and I'm not saying he's the answer, but how do you not play him? Are you going to make him the backup or the third string quarterback? I don't see that.
No, I think they're going to play him.
Okay.
I think they're going to play him. And that's some Browns fans would say, and until we figure out the original sin, the big massage oil spill, I don't care who the quarterback is. Play Shedeur, play Dylan the midget, play whoever. Throw him any. And you're all upset that they may play Shedeur. Cleveland fans are like, no, I want to look at Shedeur. This will be fun. I can get some traction out of it on the internet. And who knows? Maybe we'll catch lightning in the bottle, and he'll be a player. They're what are they, 1-5? And they're not going to the playoffs.
The season's over.
And so you might as well take a look at Shedeur. It seems like you don't want Shedeur to get a chance on the off chance that, he could actually be decent.
No, if I end up being wrong on my opinion, I'm going to be wrong on my opinion. I'll take it the same way as I would if I was correct. But I just don't understand this in person, live, during the season. Let's just go through 6 quarterbacks. I mean, you got to remember, I'm from Detroit. The Browns are where the Lions used to be, but I think they've taken the torch to a whole nother level because even we didn't do this with our quarterbacks. I'm talking pre-Stafford, when it was Mike McMahon and it was all these other guys. Who's our guy? This is crazy. So you're going to put Shedeur in for a week or two, and then you're going to put Watson in a week or two after that. It's like, just make up your mind. And I'm not saying Deshaun Watson is going to have a resurrection. But he's 30 years old, and in 2018, he threw for 4,850 yards. He is the only man on that roster who has proved at some point that he could be an electric type of quarterback and led the entire league in something. All right, so it's hard to ignore that. Could you resurrect it? I doubt you can in Stefanski's system. I think that's a real serious problem. But he gives you the best chance to win if you're interested in winning right now.
I think that Deshaun Watson is very, very confident he will rise again. I don't think he has any problems with resurrections. So I'm
going to leave that
Paul,
one alone.
And so am I. Paul, you got anything else you want to get off your chest before I let you go?
I just want to, I agree totally with Danny Kanell. I have a lot of respect for Danny. I follow him very closely, that whole Bill Belichick situation. 100% lockstep agree with him. I mean, absolutely agree. It is over with Belichick. It will only get worse, not better. I love Michael Lombardi and his background. Bill is on my sign behind me. Absolute idol of mine, coaching idol. But this is bad. It isn't going to get better. It's not like a year from now or 2 years from here. And I love Nick Saban too, and I like what he said. But you go 3-13 or whatever, or 3-11, like Danny said. It's only going to get worse, not better. I don't know how you attract players to come play for that circus. And the 24, 25-year-old woman in the room who wants to get cotton candy and comes up on the sidelines and asks them, "Is it time? Can we go now?" It's just a bad deal, and I don't think it gets better. It gets worse. It's very sad.
Paul, thank you so much. Great job as always. We'll see you next time. I'm so glad we had this time together. But we're done here. We will be on the Harmony channel in 15 minutes, I'm going to say. Because I think I see Dave Shannon's here. Chalk Knox is in the building. Toby, I haven't seen Toby, but I'm sure he's here. Gabriel, I think I've seen him. He's here. The guys from Cross Politic are in the building. They'll be with me on the Harmony channel in 15 minutes. Let's say, I'm going to say 16 minutes. We'll say 11:25. We'll be on the Harmony channel. Join us there for it. We'll talk a little. Today's Charlie Kirk's birthday. So we'll talk a little Charlie Kirk. We'll talk a little Candace Owens. We'll talk about why the Cross Politic crew is here in Nashville, Tennessee. They come every year. They put on their, Feast, Fight, and Laugh? Fight, Laugh, and Feast? I think it's FLF. Feast, Laugh, Fight. Is it Feast, Laugh, Fight, or is it Fight, Fast, Feet? Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum, Here come the cross politic boys. Here they come. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all those moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I wanna be. I wanna be.